Joining us now from New York City is Governor Kathy Hochul. Governor, tell us about this announcement. It might be a surprise to some people. You want to build another nuclear power plant in New York State.
I thank you for the question. It's a matter of necessity. We have so many opportunities here in New York under my administration. We've been aggressively trying to recruit more companies to come here. I only need to say one word, and Micron and everyone in central New York, actually across the state, knows the significance of that. But there's also a lot of supply chain companies that are coming as a result of that. Micron deciding to come to central New York, and artificial intelligence. We have Empire AI, a huge supercomputer being built in Buffalo that'll power researchers and universities all across the state, including SU. So there's so much opportunity, and our failure to lead in this moment would have decades of consequences because these companies will go to other states. They want to know that they have reliable, affordable power. And not just these companies, this is for everyday New Yorkers. This is about making sure that we don't have brownouts and shortages of power for your very home, especially when look at the heat wave we're having right now. And so this is about making sure we have enough supply, diversifying, making the bold investments, making a tough decision, which others have not made in decades and decades. And I'm willing to do that. And there's a lot of support from New Yorkers as well as businesses and the labor community that's excited about the jobs that'll be associated with this.
How do you calm the fears of people who want nothing like this near them, knowing the history of meltdowns and some of the waste left behind?
I understand the concern. I truly do. I grew up at a time when there was a lot of, influences back in the early 1970s when this was a fairly new industry in our country, although it's been in Europe for many, many generations, many years. I would say this, we have had 4 reactors at 3 sites in New York going on, some since the 80s, some since the 70s, up on Lake Ontario. They have worked perfectly as planned. They've been safe, and even the technologies today in 2025 are dramatically improved. I mean, the safety measures, the scaling back the size that's required. This is not, as I said, your grandmother's or your grandfather's nuclear reactor. It's vastly different. But security and safety will be my #1 priorities when we get through this process. And so I'll be looking closely about how we can do this and really alleviate the fears. But given that we have so much energy demand and we are trying so hard to wean ourselves from the old coal fire plants and the fossil fuels that have created so many greenhouse emissions that are changing our climate, we're feeling it now. We don't have a choice. We are still leaning into solar and wind and geothermal and battery storage, but the capacity is just not there. So this is an option that I will ensure meets all the safety requirements, but it's been widely used across the country and across the world, and we're missing an opportunity here to lead.
You're sitting down to discuss this with a Central New York reporter. So the obvious question is, how much of this project is intended for Oswego County?
All I will say is this. We're having a process that's starting right away. I mean, we announced it yesterday, but we've been working on this for a solid year. So when the announcement came, we'd be ready to just jump right into this. And so we'll be looking at sites. But what I'm so excited about, Andrew, is that unlike probably decades ago when communities were very anxious and hostile to the idea of having this in their geographic area, everybody wants it now. I mean, at least upstate. And I left this event at the Niagara Power Authority in Lewiston, New York, and even elected officials there were saying, can it come to my community? Can it come to my community? So we know that Central New York needs a lot of power because of Micron and other companies coming, but I will not be in a position to say the location. And again, there's 2 major options here. One large scale facility to create 1 gigawatt of power that'll power about 1 million homes. Or do we do smaller, maybe 4 or 5 small modular reactors, they're called, which will go into more communities. So those decisions are yet to be made, but most importantly, we are starting the process. We are leaning into our clean energy future. And I'm so proud to be the person who got this going and saying, what are we waiting for? The demand is there. New Yorkers deserve more affordability and reliability. So let's get started.
Dare I say, in this day and age, this is getting bipartisan positive feedback, including from Oswego County. You have the Republican Minority Leader Will Barclay praising this, saying Oswego County wants this. You have the Republican majority Oswego County legislature saying they welcome this. What does Oswego County have to do to position itself to be granted this project?
Again, I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale right now. There's a lot of experts I'll be bringing to the table to analyze this. And there's a long process involved as it stands involving the federal government. What I'm trying to do, and I appreciate the bipartisan support, as a leader for the entire state, I want everyone to know that party affiliation makes no difference to me when it comes to finding ways to make sure that all New Yorkers have more affordable power so their utility bills can finally be stabilized instead of going up and up and up, and support our businesses. And Oswego has been an amazing host. I mean, this is an important employer in their area. I've been up in that area many times, and it's widely embraced by the community. I know at a time when we were looking at the specter of losing several hundreds of jobs in that area, we fought hard to ensure that there was new ownership, that we could get this going. So I appreciate how they've embraced nuclear. They're a good example, but I can't say at this time where it's going to go. But my next job is to work with the Trump administration to scale back the time frame, because of a normal 10-year process, about 7 traditionally comes from federal reviews. And I spoke to President Trump about this at least 2, probably 3, 4 occasions, 2 in person, and said, we're ready to go with nuclear. I need your government regulators, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, to make some adaptations, find ways to streamline the process, never compromising safety, never, but also so much has happened in the last few decades. We need to acknowledge that the safety standards are much higher and look at other examples around the world where it's gone successfully. So I need to push the Trump administration now to work cooperatively with us. And this is something ultimately in a few years we'll all be proud of.
This is my last question because I know you need to go. You have a busy day ahead, but you talk about the environmental reviews taking a lot of time. The Micron DEIS comes out imminently, and I think the question on all these projects are, what can New York State do to improve the time for environmental reviews, whether it's Micron, whether it's a supply chain company, whether it's a nuclear power plant?
We move quickly. For a long time, I think people in government thought their job was to say no. I've been a government official for 3 decades, starting at the local level and the county level and going on from there. And I have a different perspective that our job is to get to yes, making sure that all the environmental standards are met. But there's ways that I know this from local government. You can drag out a process and make people eventually say, I'm not going to proceed, it's just taking too long. Or you can be a government that's not on your back, but on your side, and to help people work through this. And this is a governmental objective. I want this done. So you can be assured that every entity, NYPA's leading the charge here. NYPA is an organization that is used to getting the job done. I sat down with Justin Driscoll yesterday for a long time, and I said, this is a top priority. Move quickly on this from your end. DEC knows they have a job to do, but to not drag their feet. And even DOT and others that will be involved in the site and making sure the infrastructure is there to provide what they need. This is going to be a whole of government approach. I'm leading the charge, and we're going to get this done.
Governor Hochul, I appreciate your time focusing on Central New York and discussing it with us at News Channel 9. I appreciate it.
Always will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Governor.